All right, let's dive straight into a quick-fire revision session on a topic that is absolutely essential for your GCSE computer science exam, data types. Now, this is a core part of the OCR J277 spec, and trust me, if you can nail this concept, you'll find the rest of your programming journey gets a whole lot smoother. So to get our brains warmed up, let me ask you a question. Why can't a computer add the number 5 and the word hello? To us, the answer is just obvious, right? But for a machine, it's a massive problem. And the reason why? Well, it gets to the very heart of how computers actually think. So here's our game plan for the next few minutes. We're going to start with why data types even matter in the first place. Then we'll look at handling numbers, text, and logic. After that, we'll get into a really powerful technique called casting. And we'll finish up with a checklist straight from the OCR specification, just to make sure you're totally exam ready. Okay, let's jump right into our first section. Why do data types even matter? Let's get down to the absolute basics. Think of a data type as a simple label. That's all it is. It's a label that tells the computer exactly how to handle a piece of information. Is this a number that you can add or subtract? Or is it text that you just want to show on screen? This little label sets all the rules for what you can and can't do, and it even tells the computer how much memory it needs to put aside. Here's a brilliant way to think about it, and probably the easiest way to remember this. Imagine you have different shaped boxes. You've got one for numbers, a different one for sentences, another for single letters. If you try to force a whole sentence into the little box that's only designed for numbers, well, your program is going to crash. It's that simple. Using the right data type is all about picking the right box for the job. It keeps your code efficient, and most importantly, it stops it from breaking. Now, let's see how this whole box idea applies to numbers. In our second section, we'll see that computers basically have two main ways of dealing with them. Okay, so here are the two types you absolutely have to know when it comes to numbers. First up, the integer. That's just any whole number, positive or negative. Simple. Think of a player's score in a game or how many lives you have left. Then you've got the real, which you might also hear called a float. This is for any number that has a decimal point. So, things like a price, a weight, or a measurement. But of course, programming isn't just about numbers. So what about text? And what about logic, making decisions? That's exactly what we're going to tackle in our third section. Here are 3 more essentials for your coding toolkit. A character, or char for short, is literally just one single symbol, a letter, a question mark, even a number. A string is just a bunch of those characters strung together, a word, a name, a whole sentence. And then there's the Boolean. Now this one is a real game changer. It can only ever be one of 2 things, true or false. That's it. But that simple idea is the foundation of all decision-making in your code. It's the engine that drives every if statement and while loop. Okay, let's look at a technique you are definitely going to need for the exam. In section 4, we're talking about how to change a data type right in the middle of your code. It's a process known as casting. Casting is kind of like a programming power move. It's how you convert a value from one data type into another. And this is super, super useful, especially when you're getting input from a user. See, when a user types in the number 10, the computer doesn't see the number 10. It sees it as text, the character 1 followed by the character 0. And here's a perfect example of how that works, using the format from the OCR exam reference language. First, see how the user input is stored as a string with the quote marks? Then we use that int function to cast it, to turn it into an integer. Now that user score is a proper number, we can finally do some math with it, like adding 5 to get a new score of 15. Simple as that. So, the million-dollar question, how does this all actually translate to your exam? Let's break down exactly what the people at OCR expect you to know. Treat this slide as your ultimate revision checklist. You need to be able to look at a problem, like storing a username or a high score, and pick the right data type. You've got to understand what casting is, and crucially, know when you'd actually use it. And finally, you have to be able to put it all into practice in your code. If you can competently tick off everything on this list, you are in a great position for those exam questions. And really, that's the key takeaway here. It all comes back to this one idea. If you can master these data types, you are mastering the fundamental language of the computer itself. This is the solid foundation that all your other programming skills are going to be built on. So, I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Now that you know the rules and the different players in the game, which data type do you think is the most useful? the most powerful? There isn't a single correct answer, of course, but just thinking about it is a great way to solidify just how important each one really is. Thanks for joining this explainer.